At my younger brother's engagement party, my parents and the bride's father deliberately seated me and my family next to the wedding gift area, separated from everyone else, as if we were the staff. When I asked why, they said I would embarrass the family if I appeared inside the main banquet hall because the guests that day were successful people. Right after that, I called the chief operating officer of the company and asked him to cancel a $7.2 million contract that the company was about to sign with the bride's family business. Then, I stepped into the center of the party and revealed everything. Was I wrong for standing up and exposing them all at my brother's engagement party? Let's follow the story and share your thoughts. Hello everyone. My name is Julian Evans, and I am 34 years old. I am the CEO of Vector Forge, a supply chain technology company that's rapidly growing in Boston. I live with my wife Mila, a talented surgeon, and Brian, our energetic 6-year-old son. Mila has always been my strongest support. She has a warm smile and an admirable sense of determination. And Brian, our clever little boy with the blue eyes he inherited from his mother, is always running around the house with endless questions about how computers work. To outsiders, we might seem like the ideal image of a happy family. But there's one thing that not many people know. Deep inside, there's still a wound in me that hasn't healed. Something that quietly lingers every time I see families being reunited. In the past, I also had a family with a complete set of a father, a mother, and a younger brother. But 3 months ago, I cut ties with my family at my younger brother's engagement party. To help you understand the story better, I'll tell you everything from when I received the invitation to the party 4 months ago. I remember that evening clearly when I watched the game between the Patriots and the Chiefs in the entertainment room at my house in the suburbs of Boston. Right then, my phone notified me of a call from Aiden, my younger brother. After a few seconds of hesitation, I picked up. Right after that, with an unusually excited voice, Aiden said, "Julian, I'm throwing an engagement party next month. I'm calling to invite you and your family." After hearing that, I felt a chill run down my spine. In a voice trying to stay calm, I asked, "When and where?" Immediately, Aiden responded excitedly, "The 15th of next month, at the Ocean View Resort. I'll text you the location and time. Ensure you're there on time." After a short pause, still trying to keep my voice calm, I replied, "I'll arrange it." After that, I said goodbye to Aiden and hung up because there wasn't anything else to say. When the call ended, I put the phone down and sighed. The truth is, I don't want to show up at family parties because I'm always looked down on at those events. After Brian went to bed that night, I told Mila the whole phone call. She sat beside me, listened without interrupting, and handed me a glass of wine as I told her everything. After hearing the whole story in a gentle but firm voice, Mila looked me straight and said, "You should go. Aiden is your brother, after all. If you don't show up, they'll have another reason to insult you." After hearing that, I swallowed hard, feeling emotion rising. Looking into Mila's sincere eyes, I knew she was right. In a hoarse voice, I replied, "I'll think about it." Right after that, with a soft smile, Mila squeezed my hand and whispered, "Sometimes, we need to face the past to move forward truly." 1 month later, Aiden's engagement party took place. That day, I wore a Tom Ford suit. Mila looked stunning in a turquoise Vera Wang dress. Brian had personally chosen a gray mini-suit for himself. When I saw Brian with loving eyes, I knelt, looked straight into my son's blue eyes and said earnestly, "Son, today we're going to meet your grandparents and Uncle Aiden. Do you remember them?" After that question, with a solemn expression, Brian shook his head, then replied, "I don't remember Grandma and Grandpa very well. They're the people who never came to my birthday parties, right?" Hearing that question, I felt my heart tighten. Trying to stay calm, I answered gently, "That's right, but we'll see them today. They're also our family." Seeing the doubt in my son's eyes, I wondered if I was doing the right thing by bringing this little boy to a place where he might feel unwelcome. But I also hoped that things would be different during that party. We arrived at the Ocean View Resort when the party had already been going on for a while. As soon as we walked in, we caught the attention of the relatives who were at the party. Then came the whispers I couldn't help but overhear. Things like, "Is that Julian Evans? I heard he hasn't talked to the family in years, and surprising to see him here." Right then, I felt Brian grip my hand tighter. Immediately, I bent down, smiled at my son, and whispered, "It's okay, buddy. Dad's here." After I said that, Brian seemed less shaky. When we stepped into the central area of the party, I spotted my parents standing by the bar, chatting with a group of what looked like old friends. My father, Nolan Evans, looked much older than I saw him last. My mother, Kinsley, still maintained her elegant and cold demeanor. When Nolan's eyes met mine, I saw no signs of joy or welcome. Kinsley didn't even look me straight in the eye. Right after that, I led Mila and Brian toward them. Trying to smile, I said, "Dad, Mom, it's been a while." After my greeting, Nolan just responded briefly, "Julian." Kinsley looked at Mila and Brian with a forced smile and said, "Hello, Mila." "Hello, Brian? You've grown up so fast." After she said that, the atmosphere became awkward. Nobody said anything more. Just then, Aiden appeared in a bespoke tuxedo with a bright smile. With evident excitement, my younger brother walked over, hugged me, and roared, "Julian, you made it. It's so great to see you here." After Aiden's hug, with a gentle smile, I patted Aiden on the shoulder and replied, "Congratulations." As that exchange ended, a tall man walked over, probably in his early 60s. Immediately, with confident pride, Aiden introduced us, "Julian, this is Thomas Whitmore, Amelia's father and chairman of Whitmore Group." After the introduction, Aiden turned to Thomas and roared, "This is Julian, my older brother." Following the introduction, Thomas looked me up and down with an openly judgmental gaze. Then, with a mocking smile, he said loud enough for people around us to hear, "So this is the failure of a brother your parents always mention?" I figured he'd stay home, too scared to attend this party. When his words faded, I felt like someone had just thrown cold water in my face. But then, a few seconds later, I remembered that Whitmore Group was exactly the company we were preparing to sign a $7.2 million contract with. Immediately, with a calm smile, I responded, "Nice to meet you, Thomas. I've heard a lot about Whitmore Group." After I spoke, Thomas frowned, seeming displeased with my composed reaction. With an arrogant tone, he asked, "Is that so? And what exactly do you know about my company?" When the sound faded, I could feel the tension rising. At that moment, Mila placed her hand on my back, a silent gesture of support. Right then, I felt that this party wouldn't go how I had hoped. Vector Forge, the company I founded and run, has developed the most advanced supply chain management software. With high automation capabilities, accurate demand forecasting through AI, and blockchain integration to ensure transparency, our product has attracted the attention of many major corporations. Whitmore Group approached us 6 months ago with their Northeast United States distribution network. Eleanor Wright, their chief operating officer, worked directly with my technical team, and we passed 3 rigorous evaluation rounds. The $7.2 million contract represents a crucial turning point to help Vector Forge expand into new markets and increase our stock value. Interestingly, throughout the negotiation process, nobody from Whitmore's side knew that I was connected to the Whitmore family through Aiden. Eleanor only knew me as Julian Evans, CEO of Vector Forge, not as the future groom's older brother. Back to the party. Standing there facing Thomas Whitmore, the man who had just called me a failure, I realized I was in an incredibly ironic situation. The company's chairman, preparing to sign a $1 million contract with me, had no idea who I was. At that moment, I could have chosen to tell the truth straight out, but part of me wanted to see where this story would go. And this was probably an opportunity to understand better how my family saw me when I wasn't around. With a calm smile, I just responded to Thomas vaguely, "I work in supply chain management software technology. Whitmore Group is a big name in the industry." After my answer, with a dismissive attitude, Thomas waved his hand and said, "Everyone knows about Whitmore Group. We're the leading distribution company in the Northeast. We've recently been preparing a major contract with some up-and-coming tech company." As soon as I heard those words, I felt a quiet anger. He had called my company some up-and-coming tech company. I knew he was talking about Vector Forge, the company I had built from scratch, with over 100 employees and a market value of $50 million. After the uncomfortable greetings with my parents and Thomas, we headed toward the reception desk to confirm our seating. A young woman in the Ocean View Resort's black and white uniform intently looked at a computer screen. With a polite smile, I said, "Hello, we're the Evans family. Julian Evans, Mila Evans, and Brian Evans." After hearing my introduction with a focused expression, the girl scrolled through the list and then frowned. After searching for a while, with a somewhat confused voice, she said, "I'm sorry, I don't see your name on the main guest list." When her words faded, I felt like someone had thrown cold water in my face for the second time that evening. Trying to stay calm, I asked again, Could you please double-check? I'm the groom's older brother, Aiden Evans. The young woman scrolled through the list once more. Right after that, with a regretful tone, she said, "Yes, I see your name here, but on the supplementary list." After she said that, I stood there frozen. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. A few seconds later, the staff member continued with a somewhat awkward voice, "Please follow me this way. Your seating is at the very back on the left side, near the gift display area." When the sound faded, I felt my body stiffen as I learned about my seating location. Not in the central party area where family and close friends sat, but by the gift display area. At that moment, Mila squeezed my hand tight, a silent gesture of support and a reminder to stay calm. Still not understanding what was happening, Brian looked up at me with innocent eyes and asked, "Dad, why are we sitting so far away?" Right after that question, with a forced smile, I whispered, "It's okay, buddy. Maybe they're just short on space in the main area." After that, we followed the staff member to a remote corner of the banquet room, where 3 lonely chairs were placed near the wedding gift display area. There were no floral decorations, name cards, and, most importantly, no one else sitting at our table. We were completely isolated from the party. As soon as I saw that seating arrangement, I felt anger rising. This wasn't an accident or oversight. It was an intentional act. And indeed, this arrangement came from people in my own family. Unable to accept being treated this way, I decided to get to the bottom of the issue. I whispered to Mila that I'd be right back, then headed toward the reception desk to find a manager. Just as I was about to speak with the manager, I saw my parents and Thomas walking toward us. With a scowling expression, Nolan, my father, walked straight up and stopped me. With a low, angry voice, he said, "What do you think you're doing? Causing trouble on your brother's special day?" After that question, trying to stay calm, I replied, "I just want to ask about our seating. Why are we by the gift area, separated from everyone else?" At that moment, looking straight into my eyes with a cold stare, Nolan said through gritted teeth, "If you go in there, you'll embarrass us." After he said that, I felt like someone had just stabbed a knife into my heart. My father, the man I had admired throughout my childhood, was publicly admitting that he was ashamed of me. Right after that, my mother, Kinsley, stepped forward with an equally harsh expression. With a quiet but sharp voice, she said, "You'd better just sit wherever you're put and stay there. Just pretend you're not even here." Hearing those words, I felt pain spreading from deep in my heart, not because of the harsh words but because of the truth that my mother wanted me to disappear on this critical family day. And then Thomas, standing beside them with an undisguised mocking smile, chimed in, "Listen here, Evans. This is a party for important people, influential guests with status, not a place for people like you who are beneath us." After he said that, I felt both shaken and deeply furious. They weren't just treating me like a stranger. They were publicly humiliating me in front of other people. I didn't argue further. I just quietly walked away. When I returned to Mila and Brian, I saw my wife trying to explain to our 6-year-old son why we had to sit separated like this. Mila looked at me with worried eyes and asked quietly, "What happened, honey?" With a strangely calm voice, I recounted the conversation that had just taken place. Mila listened in silence, her eyes gradually shifting from worry to anger. Finally, determinedly, she said, "We should just leave. Brian doesn't need to witness this." At that moment, I felt infinite gratitude toward the woman who had been by my side for the past decade. But instead of agreeing to leave, I shook my head and said, "No, I have another idea." After I said that, Mila looked at me with curious eyes, but I didn't say anything more. Determined not to let myself and my family be treated like strangers for another minute, I pulled my phone out of my pocket. With trembling fingers, I found the number for Michael Reed, Vector Forge's chief operating officer, the partner who had been with me building the company from day one. Looking at Mila with determined eyes, I said quietly, "I'm not going to sit here and let them look down on us anymore." After 2 rings, Michael's familiar voice came through, "Julian, what's going on?" Immediately, with a calm but determined voice, I said, "Prepare the paperwork to cancel the Whitmore contract. I won't work with people who treat me like gift table staff." Over the phone, I could hear Michael's sharp intake of breath from surprise. With a panicked voice, he asked, "Julian, what happened? We're almost done with everything. This contract is worth $7.2 million. Cutting him off, I explained briefly, "I'm at my younger brother's engagement party at the Ocean View Resort. The bride's father is Thomas Whitmore. and I just discovered they deliberately seated me and my family next to the gift area, separated from everyone else, as if we were service staff. After I said that, there was a long silence from Michael's end. Finally, surprisedly, he exclaimed, "Oh my God, Julian, I had no idea. But could we possibly separate personal matters from business?" After Michael's question, with a firm voice, I replied, "No, Michael. I don't do business with people who look down on others." Thomas Whitmore called our company some up-and-coming tech company. Vector Forge has plenty of other options. Notify Whitmore immediately and prepare the contract cancellation paperwork. I'll contact you later. When I ended the call, I felt an unusual sense of relief, as if a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. No more having to prove my worth. No more begging for recognition. I smiled at Mila and Brian and said, "Let's straighten up our clothes. We're going into the center of the party." After I said that, with a slightly worried look, Mila asked, "What are you planning to do?" With calm eyes, I replied, "Nothing at all. Just show up as Julian Evans." After that, I stood up and adjusted my tie and suit jacket. Mila also stood up, fixing her dress. Still not fully understanding what was happening, Brian sensed the serious atmosphere and straightened his shirt on his own. At that moment, I knew this decision would change everything for tonight and our future with the Evans family. About a minute later, hand in hand, Mila and I, with Brian walking between us, headed toward the center of the banquet room. We walked with the confidence of people who knew their worth. As soon as we moved, the guests' eyes turned toward us. With steady steps, we continued toward the center, where Aiden and Amelia stood and chatted with guests. Aiden was the first to notice us. With a confused expression, my younger brother frowned, not understanding why we were there instead of sitting quietly in our assigned seats. Right then, Thomas Whitmore, standing next to Aiden, also turned around. When he saw us, he scowled, clearly displeased. With quick steps, Thomas walked toward us, blocking our path. And with a low, angry voice, he said, "I thought you were already assigned seating? Why are you here?" After that question, looking straight into Thomas's eyes calmly, I replied, "That's right. We were assigned to a remote corner, next to the gift area, as if we were service staff. But I think, as the groom's older brother, I deserve to be here more than that." After I said that, Thomas's face turned red with anger. With a voice gritting each word, he threatened, "If you don't return to your seat immediately, I'll call security." After that threat, with a slight smile, I replied, "Go ahead. I'm curious to see how they'll react when you're kicking the groom's brother out of the engagement party. I'm sure the local papers would love this story." When my words faded, I saw Thomas clench his teeth, trying to control his anger. He knew I was right. A scandal like that wouldn't be good for Whitmore Group's image. Just then, Aiden and Amelia approached. With a confused expression, Aiden asked, "Julian, what's going on? Why aren't you sitting in your assigned seat?" Looking straight at my younger brother, I asked, "Do you know where they seated me and my family?" "Aiden, in a remote corner, next to the gift area, separated from everyone else." After that question, Aiden's face changed color. With evasive eyes, my younger brother stammered, I don't know the details." When the sound faded, I understood that my younger brother was lying. Aiden knew everything and had done nothing to stop it. Just then, a group of essential guests approached, clearly attracted by the tense situation unfolding. A middle-aged man in a bespoke Armani suit said, "Thomas, is there a problem?" After that question, with a forced smile, Thomas hurriedly replied, "Nothing at all, Bob. Just a small misunderstanding." But Bob, clearly an important figure, had recognized me. With surprised eyes, he looked at me and asked, "Are you Julian Evans, CEO of Vector Forge?" Right as the question ended, Thomas froze. He turned to me, eyes wide with shock, and stammered, "CEO of Vector Forge?" After that question, with a slight smile, I replied, "That's right. I'm Julian Evans, CEO and founder of Vector Forge." After I said that, Thomas looked like lightning struck him. Whitmore Group was preparing to sign a $7.2 million contract with Vector Forge. Now, he discovered that the person he had deliberately insulted, the person he called a failure, was the CEO of their potential partner company. Instead of admitting his mistake, Thomas tried to salvage the situation. With a mocking smile, he said, "CEO of Vector Forge? A guy whose own family calls him a failure claiming to be a CEO? How is that possible?" At that moment, I felt Mila squeeze my hand tight to help me stay calm. With a doubtful voice, Thomas continued, Or did you eavesdrop on information about our deal to impersonate someone for the show? When his words faded, the atmosphere around us seemed to freeze. All eyes turned to me, waiting for my reaction. With a calm smile, I said to him, "You can call Eleanor Wright, Whitmore Group's Chief Operating Officer. She'll confirm my identity. At the same time, I'm also informing you that the $7.2 million contract between you and me is officially canceled." At that moment, Thomas took out his phone and called immediately. After exchanging a few words with Eleanor, his face went pale. Finally, with a trembling voice, Thomas ended the call and turned to me. With a completely changed expression, he said, I hope you won't let personal matters affect the cooperation between our two companies. We truly value Vector Forge and your technology." After he said that, I could sense the complete change in Thomas's attitude, from contempt to flattery in the blink of an eye. But instead of enjoying that moment, I only felt a deep sadness, because I didn't want to be respected for my title or business position. I wanted to be respected as a human being, as Aiden's brother, as Julian. While Thomas tried to salvage the situation, Amelia, the bride-to-be, stepped forward bewilderedly. She looked from Thomas to me with questioning eyes, then turned to Aiden. With a trembling voice, Amelia asked, "What's going on here? Why is everyone so tense like this?" After that question, I spoke up, "Amelia, you told me to sit far away. That's fine. But do you know they seated me next to the gift table?" Immediately, Amelia froze, her eyes full of confusion. With an unbelieving voice, she asked again, "The gift table?" "No, I only said to sit you at a separate table because I thought you wanted private space with your little family." Right after that, Amelia met a staff member at the party, requesting to speak with the person who assigned the seating. About 3 minutes later, the seating coordinator from earlier approached. Embarrassedly, she spoke up. "We followed the request from Mr. Nolan, Mrs. Kinsley, and Mr. Thomas. They asked me to lead him to the position near the gift table." Amelia whipped around to face Thomas when the voice faded, her eyes red with anger and shame. With a trembling voice, she said, "Dad, I didn't request that. Why did you do this?" At that moment, Thomas was cornered, only able to stammer, "Amelia, you have to understand. This is an important party. We can't let anything affect the family's image." After that response, Amelia turned to me, with eyes full of regret, and said, "Julian, I'm truly sorry. I didn't know they had done this." After Amelia's apology, with a gentle smile, I replied, "It's okay, Amelia. You're not the one who needs to apologize." When the sound faded, I saw my parents, Nolan and Kinsley, approaching us, clearly realizing something was wrong. With a frowning face, Nolan said, "What's happening here?" Before I could answer, Amelia had already turned to Nolan and Kinsley with a voice full of indignation. "Uncle Nolan, Aunt Kinsley, why did you do this? Julian is your son, Aiden's brother." Caught off guard by Amelia's reaction, Nolan and Kinsley stood there, not knowing what to say. Finally, with a cold voice, Kinsley spoke up, "We only did what was best for the party. Julian, he doesn't fit the atmosphere here." After that statement, I felt my heart shatter once again. After all these years, after all the success, I still didn't fit in my own mother's eyes. While stunned by the truth that had just been exposed, Aiden finally spoke up. With a trembling voice and eyes full of guilt, my younger brother said, "Julian, I'm sorry." Looking straight into Aiden's eyes, I asked gently, "You knew they arranged it like that, didn't you?" Just as the question ended, Aiden hung his head, not daring to look me in the eye. With a voice so small it was barely audible, my younger brother admitted, "Yes, I knew, but I didn't expect them to go that far. I thought they would seat you at a separate table, not next to the gift table." After that statement, I felt a deep pain, not because of being seated in a terrible position, but because my younger brother had known and done nothing to stop it. With a low but clear voice, I said, "So why didn't you stop them?" At that moment, Aiden stood silent, unable to answer. Finally, regretfully, my younger brother admitted, "I wasn't brave enough. I was afraid Mom and Dad would be disappointed in me." When the voice faded, I understood that this wasn't the first time Aiden had chosen silence. For so many years, my younger brother had witnessed how our parents treated me and never once spoke up to defend me. With calm eyes, I looked straight at Aiden and said, "Silence is also a form of betrayal, Aiden. I don't blame you anymore, but I can't trust you again." After that statement, Aiden seemed to collapse, his shoulders drooping with guilt and shame. Amelia stood beside him, her eyes full of disappointment toward her fiancé. As for Thomas, still trying to salvage the situation, he spoke up, Julian, about the contract between Whitmore Group and Vector Forge, but I raised my hand, cutting him off, and said, we'll talk about that later, Thomas. But I think you understand my position clearly. After that statement, with a pale face, Thomas nodded, understanding that the $7.2 million deal was now seriously threatened. Nolan and Kinsley stood there, their eyes full of anger and shame. They had been exposed in front of the people they most wanted to impress. At that moment, I knew I had done the right thing by standing up to protect my family. After everything that had happened, there was no reason for us to stay at the party anymore. Everything had been said. Every truth had been exposed. There was nothing left to hide, nothing left to pretend. I gently turned to Mila and said, let's go home. With an understanding smile, Mila nodded and took Brian's hand. All three of us began to walk away, not looking back, not a word of goodbye. As we passed by Thomas, he hurriedly blocked our path. Julian, about the contract. With calm eyes, I said briefly, I'll contact Eleanor tomorrow. After that statement, Thomas nodded, understanding there was nothing he could say to salvage the situation. As we walked past Nolan and Kinsley, they stood there, eyes full of anger but not daring to speak up. They knew that any more words would only make the situation worse. Right after that, Aiden stepped forward with a face full of regret. He asked me, Julian, you won't come to my wedding? Looking straight into my younger brother's eyes, I replied, I don't know, Aiden, but don't hope for too much. With that statement, we continued walking, leaving the luxurious banquet hall behind the curious stares and whispered conversations. On the way to the parking lot, Mila squeezed my hand tightly and said softly, I'm proud of you, Julian. We did the right thing. At that moment, looking into my wife's loving eyes, I nodded and replied, no one can price our self-respect except ourselves. After that, we continued walking silently, each person lost in their thoughts. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The clock showed only 6 a.m., but I was completely awake. Gently getting out of bed, trying not to wake Mila, I went downstairs to the kitchen and made a cup of coffee. Sitting by the window, looking out at the backyard covered in morning dew, I felt an unusual sense of peace. Around 6:30, my phone rang with a call from Eleanor, the CEO of Whitmore Group. With an urgent voice, Eleanor said immediately, Julian, Thomas Whitmore has called me 5 times since early morning. He's panicking about the contract. He said something happened at the engagement party last night. After that statement, with a calm voice, I recounted last night's events to Eleanor. When I finished the story, there was a long silence from Eleanor's end. Finally, with a low voice, she said, I don't know what to say, Julian. I'm truly sorry for what happened. Immediately, I replied, it's not your fault, Eleanor, but my decision remains the same. Vector Forge will not collaborate with Whitmore Group. After a brief moment of silence, Eleanor sighed softly. When the call ended, I put the phone down and continued enjoying my coffee. 2 weeks after the incident at the Ocean View Resort, I received a text from Aiden. Can I meet with you? To talk. After some consideration, I agreed to meet my younger brother at a small coffee shop in downtown Boston. When I arrived, Aiden was already sitting there with 2 cups of coffee. When he saw me, my younger brother stood up, his face unable to hide the worry and nervousness. After sitting down across from my younger brother, I asked directly, what do you want to talk about? After my question, Aiden looked down at his coffee cup, seemingly searching for the right words. Finally, tremblingly, my younger brother looked up and asked, how did you endure being looked down upon by mom and dad for all these years? After that question, I was stunned. Of all the things I thought Aiden would say, this wasn't what I expected. Taking a sip of coffee, I thought about my answer. Finally, calmly, I replied, I won't endure it anymore, Aiden. I let go a long time ago. When I just finished speaking with a low voice, Aiden admitted, I'm in a similar situation now, Julian. After the incident at the Ocean View, mom and dad have changed. They started demanding more, controlling more. From the wedding to my work, even where we'll live. Hearing those words, I couldn't help but feel sympathy for my younger brother. Aiden, the perfect child, the golden child of the Evans family, was finally experiencing what I had endured for so many years. I looked straight at Aiden with sincere eyes and said, you chose your path, Aiden. You chose silence when they mistreated me. Now you have to find your way to face them. After that statement, Aiden hung his head, his eyes full of regret. With a voice so small it was barely audible, my younger brother admitted, "I know. And I'm sorry, Julian. I'm truly sorry for not standing up to defend you." Looking at my younger brother with calm eyes, I said, "I don't blame you anymore." A few seconds after that response, with a trembling voice, my younger brother asked, "So, you'll come to my wedding, right?" Thinking momentarily, I sighed and replied, "I don't know, Aiden." Right after that, Aiden took an envelope from his pocket, placed it on the table and said, "This is a new invitation. Amelia and I have decided to have a smaller wedding, only with truly important people. No Thomas, no people from Whitmore Group, and no mom and dad either." After that statement, I looked at my younger brother with surprised eyes. Without letting me ask, Aiden immediately explained, "Amelia and I have thought a lot. We don't want to start our new life with people who don't respect our love and choices. I hope you'll come, Julian." After that statement, I felt a strange emotion rising. I could see that Aiden was changing, not because of pressure or wanting to please someone, but because he finally understood the value of freedom and self-respect. Holding the invitation, I told Aiden, "I'll think about this." About 30 minutes later, when we parted ways outside the coffee shop, for the first time in many years, I felt a bit of hope for my relationship with my younger brother. At that moment, I felt that this could be the beginning of a new chapter in our brotherhood. A chapter based on mutual respect and understanding instead of unrealistic expectations and pressure. 1 month after the incident at the engagement party, Mila, Brian, and I were preparing to attend Aiden's wedding again. On the drive to the Oceanview Resort, I kept worrying that this was all just an act by Aiden and my parents, a way to lure me back and then continue mistreating me. But when we arrived, Aiden had kept his word. My younger brother greeted us at the entrance with a bright smile and a sincere hug. My family's seating that day was proper in the center of the banquet hall, with a table marked Brother Julian Evans' family in elegant writing on a placard placed on the table. When I saw our seating, I felt an indescribable emotion rising. It wasn't just a seat but recognition, an apology, and the first step in a healing journey. Just as Aiden had promised, there was no Thomas, Nolan, or Kinsley. The ceremony was warm and sincere, with only people who mattered to the couple. That day, we had more memorable photos. Aiden and I laughing together, Mila and Amelia chatting intimately, and Brian playing with other children. Moments that I thought could never happen. When the waltz music played for the newlyweds' first dance, I stood in a corner, watching Aiden and Amelia dance with clear happiness. I also felt happy because my younger brother and sister-in-law had decided their own lives and had chosen love and respect instead of expectations and pressure from others. At that moment, I understood that the path to healing might be long and complex, but it wasn't impossible. Sometimes, a small step, like a name placard on a banquet table, could be the beginning of significant changes. My story ends here. Before finishing this story, I want to ask you, the audience who has been listening until these final moments. Was I wrong when I decided to stand up and speak out at my younger brother's engagement party to protect my self-respect and my wife and son? Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below this story. I want to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and share this story. Your support is the motivation for us to keep trying every day. Goodbye and see you in the following stories.